money soldier. I thought I told you. Only rocking with the agent and the broker, yeah. Move over, we getting bolder. Making moves like the agent and the broker, yeah. Generational wealth, they bout that. Yeah, we took some L's, but we bounced back. Financial literacy, got that. Closing up the wealth gap, yeah, I'm black. Welcome to the Agent and Broker Podcast, hosted by Julian and James. And you know they bringing nothing but that black boss talk, man. Cause there's no currency stronger than the black dollar. And it's time we let the world know. First we gotta grow though, and that's for sure.
Whoa, I'm never over here. What's going on?
There you go.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Clear? Can you see my video?
Yeah, I can see a video. A little blurry, but it's getting better as you go. No, you're good now. It's getting better.
Tired of this. But guys, what's going on? Good night, good evening, and welcome to another episode of the Agent and Broker Podcast.
Yes, sir.
I hope you had some noise on there to really I'm gonna find a way to get that incorporated into our lives. So, whenever something happens like that, we can throw a little background music or background sound or something, some sound effects. But exactly. Yeah, another week. We are live tonight, guys. We're gonna have more of a conversation with some good information in it. And last week, we had our guest last week, brother Oliver Gray, and came and blessed the stage with us last week. Any good things that happened last week, James?
I mean, last week, week was pretty busy for me. And if I'm just kind of reflecting on the last episode we had with OG. We got on the phone. Shout out to OG if you're watching or listening. We got on the phone after that, man, and he gave us a lot of props. He was so excited to be here. Last week was a very busy week for me. Just staying active, running business as always. A lot of exciting news though, coming at least on my side. And I know Julian and I, we have some stuff we're working on that people are gonna be extremely excited about. But yeah, man, how was your week? How was last week for you, brother?
It was good, man. Helped somebody out with a policy.
Nice.
It's a good, really good IUL. So, pretty good payout for the week.
There you go.
Pretty good payout, y'all. Also, we're in the process of, doing our internship as well. So I brought in I now have two 12th graders who will be graduating, but also working to get their insurance license. So we got them started with their practice for their testing and everything. So it's going to be a fun journey when the youth, they're ready to learn, they're ambitious, and, just they're open-minded and ready to get into this, something new. So I'm excited about that, but just wanted to cover over that before we jump into tonight's episode. And I am Julian, guys, the agent, license W626089.
And I am James, license number W282336 down here in Florida. And it's another great episode. What episode is that, man?
It's actually episode 20. So we put down 20 already this year. Gotten out about I think 13 on the podcast. So we still kicking them out. It's just that we had I think we shot back to back, like 2 in one week for 2 or 3 weeks in a row. Mm-hmm. So we still have some episodes that we have to kick out there. Next week we'll be talking more in the metaverse of things with Brother Vic. So he'll be on here with us next week. We'll be talking NFTs, crypto, seeing what's going on in that market right now. So crazy. So we'll be, featuring him next week on the podcast. But, today is going to be more, we're going to kind of take a step back and then, we're going to take a step back and go forward with the, when it comes to funeral planning, financial planning. And we want to cover some things that aren't really talked about. And in today's episode or tonight's episode, we're going to be covering the funeral process, the financial, how important financial planning is, and just having life insurance may not just be the only thing you need. You need other things. So tonight we're going to go more into depth and give you guys some tips on how you can prepare and what to prepare for.
Absolutely, this should be pretty exciting. And as Julian say, recently, if you listen to last episode, we recently spoke about a loss. We actually Julian actually had to process a claim last week, so that kind of relates to today's episode. So he fell right on target. So doing a financial planning, there is more thing than just buying a term life insurance or a whole life or IUL. There is more to it, which we're going to unpack some of the things for you today, and it's gonna be a nice conversation today. And as we are going through, if you're watching us on Facebook Live, we may be able to go through some of the questions you have, and just hit us up after the show. If you're watching this after the fact, go to theagentandbroker.com and submit any requests you may have, and we'll be here to help you and guide you throughout the way. Sure. So I'm excited for this one, man.
Absolutely. Same. And kind of, just to dive in on everything. So financial planning, man, is a very in-depth and thorough process that a lot of people don't understand, and until it's right in your face and it hits you right in the face. And like James said, I did experience my first death claim in the last 2 weeks. So never thought it was going to be that way. Didn't think it was going to be that person. But, life happens and you never know when it's going to happen. So,
yep.
I've just been seeing over the past 2 weeks, I've seen so many people, lost their lives, or, so many people gone from being online, either it's Facebook, whether it's friends sharing somebody that they lost, or, close family, or, even celebrities. So nobody's off limits. This is one thing that is promised to all of us is death. And the things you need to uncover now is, what do you do in those times of death and when these things happen? Because life doesn't stop. If anything, everything gets expensive right then and there, right when something like this happens. And what we're going to uncover today is, life insurance is a key aspect, but life insurance it's just not the only way, or it's not the only thing to have in place and in order when it comes to something like an unexpected death. Yeah, if you have a life insurance plan, that's beautiful. However, if you're not prepared to pay upfront costs when it comes to funeral, burial, cremation, if you're going to do that, or if you're going to do embalming, there's so many things we're going to get into. If you're not ready for that and you don't have the finances for that, it can be a very painful road. And if you don't have emergency funds, you don't have, credit, and, your finances aren't together, but you have a life insurance policy, you may look at it like, man, why did I pay into this policy if, I didn't get it? It takes about, on average, 30 to 60 days for insurance policies to pay out. If you have a Primerica policy, they pride themselves in paying out within 14 days on most cases, but the average is 14 to 60 days of a payout. That's the payout time from when you submit the claim to the insurance company. So there's an entire long process before you receive those funds. So what we're going to do is uncover all of those little loopholes, or all of the unforeseen expenses and things that you will run into, at the time of a death.
100%. For sure, man. And I know we recently went through that, and it's very, very fresh. And as a matter of fact, man, I didn't get a chance to speak with you about that. It's been so much going on. But a week ago, we
Mm-hmm.
actually have a lady from our church. Her son was a victim of a shooting
Mm.
down in Kissimmee, and he was only 27 years old. And we're preparing, the funeral. It's just, it's like, as we get older, man, and you hear so many of those stories, and some of them hit right at home, and it just bring more of the importance of what we do. But yeah, this is very, very fresh, and I'm so happy we're just gonna go unwrap some of the things we're gonna be talking about today, so people can understand the process.
Mm.
That it could be very complicated, like Julian said, if you're not ready. And hopefully, this show will give you a good outlook on what you can potentially expect to the process. When something, or if something happened to somebody close to you, and hopefully you watch this show knowing that people close to you do not have life insurance, and you encourage them to get life insurance. And we always say this: it doesn't have to be from us, but you need to go out there and get yourself covered.
Facts.
But of course, this is what we're here for. If you do need the guidance, we're here to help you, guide you through it, tell you about the different type. But
Mm.
this episode is definitely, a big one, so you can know what to do, when that time comes. So, yeah, man.
Definitely. And I'm sorry to hear that about the lady at your church and her son, man. It's tough, and I'm sure you're in the process and of the funeral and planning and everything. Did she have a policy on them?
This is the thing. She didn't have a policy on them.
Mm,
And it's not that they haven't heard it. It's just that we always think we have time.
right, exactly.
So I don't know if he had something through work, but I don't
Hmm.
believe he actually had a policy. But you know how this goes, man. It's like,
Yeah,
hopefully, us as a community, we learn that we're not here forever.
yeah.
You could be driving on the street, and out of nowhere
Mm,
something happen. So
sad. That's sad, man. But
yes, sir.
let's let's dive into it. So I have up so far. I have up Lincoln Heritage Funeral Advantage.com. So LHLIC. So they broke down the cost of a funeral and everything from the averages around the country. So it says, how much does a funeral cost? So what does the average funeral cost? You got to see the breakdown of funeral costs, the services, including cremation or burial, embalming, and more. So the average funeral costs between $7,000 to $12,000. That's for the viewing. So the first one is the viewing, the burial, service fees. So paying the service, whether it's at a church or wherever that memorial is, that service you have, there's service fees. There's transportation to transport the casket, and you also have to pay for your casket. So these are fees that added on right after death, and most of the time, most funerals happen within like 2 to 3 days, depending on the family. And if they have family in other places, then they might extend it to another week. So right away, right off to the back, when somebody passes away, you're looking at a $7,000 to $12,000 bill, and that also includes the embalming. If you're gonna have like an open casket, or if you're gonna put them in the casket, not get the cremation done, and then there's other prep fees, and then you also have things like little small expenses, like if you wanted to do a repass, or you wanted to color coordinate certain things. There are so many things that you have to factor in when it comes to funeral planning. And that's like, okay, if you're going to do a repass, you have to really think about renting out that facility. If you're going to do it in a church, you got to rent out the fellowship hall, and then you have to buy tablecloths. You have to buy so many different things. You got to buy the flowers. You got to buy rent tables. You may have to rent chairs. You have to do, these are all unforeseen expenses that people don't really think about on a daily basis, because nobody wants to think about death. But when it's in your face, if you're not ready for that, how does that look? And fortunately, you know, going through the process that I went through, the family did have, emergency funds and everything up front because they did have a policy and everything. So that policy is now in the process. The claim's been filed and everything. So now it's a waiting game. And the insurance companies, they have to do their investigating. So that can take, like I said, 14 to 60 days. So we don't know how long that can take. However, these funeral expenses are up front, and most funeral homes and burial sites want their money right away. Am I right, James?
Yep, absolutely right. Absolutely right.
They want their money up front. So you telling them that you have a life insurance policy and they can wait on that, most of the time they're not going to do that at all. And it could be family, they still want their money because it costs money to get, like I said, the casket. That's going to cost money to transport everything. That's going to cost money. And alone, like literally the burial site alone, that can literally average like $6,000 just to bury your loved one. So these are, little expenses that people don't really think of. And if you're not financially savvy or you're not financially responsible throughout your life and on a daily basis, you may not be ready for these things. And something like unexpected, like death, man, it's so unexpected, you never know. And if something were to happen to you today or somebody in your family, would you be able to cover or drop 10 to 11 or $15,000 off the rip? And that's an honest question that you have to ask yourself as a person. Like, you have to ask yourself, are you ready at any given moment? Right now, are you ready? Ask yourself, am I ready? If something happens to me, my mom, my dad, sister, whoever, brother, no matter who it is, something happens to me or somebody in my family, are we ready to cough up $10,000 to $15,000 right away?
It's really a hard pill to swallow, and
it is.
Not everybody have that type of money sitting there. And I know you said is studies show is between $7,000 to $12,000, but that's average. That's nationwide. But if you're in some of those states, where things are extremely expensive, your number might be the minimum $15,000-$16,000.
Right.
And as you said, they're gonna need that money up front to actually make things happen. And one easier way to you can consider as well, as you are watching this and listening to this, whenever you are listening to this, is to actually have a will in place. Because you mentioned flowers, you mentioned the casket, you mentioned a lot of things. So if you have a will in place, and God forbid you pass away, you take so much pressure off the family, because you already got this thing already pre-planned out. So that's always a good tools to have when you have a will and testament written down as a set of instruction of exactly what you want to happen and the event you're not here anymore, so your family don't have to go to the distress. And a lot of time as well, family have conflict when that happens. So whenever I'm writing wills, I want to make sure people understand that this is why you're doing this. Because a high percentage of people, say you close your eyes tomorrow and you have 3 kids, well, what's gonna happen? Each of the 3 kids think different, and because they think different, each of them will want to do things a certain way. And what happened is the time for them to mourn, to really go through a easy process, become an argument, simply because you didn't fully get everything in place. So talking about financial planning, a will play a major role on that as well, to make sure everything go at ease, because what's on paper, that's what the family will follow.
They gotta follow it.
You got to.
That's smart. That's a major gem, is getting a will in place. A will, trust, a will, these are things that pretty much you can plan from the grave, man. And you have these things in order. Now, when you do depart from this, from the reality of here, like, hey, you left them with a plan. Like, okay, this is what needs to be done. Boom, boom, boom. Like a lot of people go towards the cremation part because it's a little bit cheaper than, the regular funeral.
Yeah.
But it's it's still like that still costs money. You know what I'm saying? You're still coming out about probably $7,000 after everything. So $7,000, like I said, if you're not ready at this moment, if you don't have access to $15,000, let's just say $15,000 at a comfortable rate. If you don't have access to $15,000, if anything were the worst of the worst were to happen to you right now, then you need to reevaluate your situation, your life situation. You need to reevaluate your life and what's going on from your financial planning, because death is promised to everybody, and age does not matter. James just said he's dealing with a death right now at his church, 27-year-old.
Yes, sir.
I just dealt with one, a 24-year-old, and one of the kids who was getting licensed, he asked me, how can I recruit people, or how can I tell people about this? Most people my age aren't worried about life insurance. He asked me that while I was at the hospital experiencing the death of a 24-year-old. I literally told him where I was at that moment. I'm about to file my first death claim on a 24-year-old. That's not far off from 18. A 24-year-old. So you're asking, how can I tell people? Let them know the truth. Death isn't promised to anybody. I mean, death is promised to anybody. Life isn't. Like, we don't know when that moment is. We're literally living that dash, like that guy said, James.
Yeah, like the
we're
preacher
in the period of the dash, like, for real.
That's what it is,
and that's where we are right now. And it's on you. If you're gonna have these things in order to, start taking your finances seriously. And it's not like, okay, I'm literally giving you a solution to, avoiding problems in the future, because it's gonna come. We don't know when. We hope it's not you. Hope it's not you. Hope it's not me, but it's gonna come. So like something that I did, like, after this whole situation, I literally just sent all my family, I sent them all my banking information to all of the banks that I have access to all of my accounts. I sent them all my passwords. I sent them everything, just in case, like, okay, in case something does happen, you got access to my bread. Like, if something were to happen to me, you're gonna be all right, financially. If something happens to you, we're gonna be okay, because I have my ducks in a row when it comes to the finances. I have the access that I need to get. If I need to get money, I have access to that money. So these are things that you can do, you should do to prepare, is, keep that stuff around in your family. Have code words if things are happening, if you're in danger, create alerts, secret family alerts within, that your family only knows, like, hey, I'm in danger, but you can just send them a quick text, like, and they know, okay, boom, you sent them the location. These are simple things that you can plan to prevent, try to prevent unfortunate situations. But that's all a part of the planning process. And when it comes to these things, so now your family is not scrapping around looking crazy if something does happen to you. Like, we go outside our houses every day and we risk our lives.
That's it.
So why not give them access to whatever it is? Like, I know some people don't trust their family or anything like that, but pick one person that you do trust. Make sure that they have it.
And it's funny. I mean, it's very interesting you bring that point up. My first death claim last year, and a 34-year-old, and that story. She left, I believe, 3 kids behind. I actually spoke with her sister yesterday. They was doing through the court process of like having custody, and there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
But you mentioning having access to bank account, that was actually one of the little roadblocks they actually got into, because having access to your account. Like, let's just say you pass away and your kids, your husband, your wife don't have access to your bank account. It's freeze. They're not going to give them access to it.
All right.
So here you are, you may have 10, 15, 20, $100,000, $1 million in there in your bank account, but it's freeze. They can't do nothing with it.
Right.
So one thing you can do, like when I did my trust, is to actually put my accounts inside that trust, so my beneficiary can have access to. You got to get it notarized based on the state you in.
Right.
But anyway, these stuff are major, or somebody you trust, like Julian said, have them sign into your account. Or go to your bank and write a special note. Say, hey, in the event that I'm not here, I want, this person to have access to my account. So something happened to you tomorrow, that person go to the bank, that note is already there. So when we're talking about financial planning, it's not just life insurance.
Right.
It's a whole spectrum of things, we have to consider. And like you said, man, just simply just adding somebody's name on your account. And there's actually, if you're watching this, you want this information I'm going to give, let me know. I can search for it for you. But Fidelity, on their website, they have a nice app where all your important documents, you can select who to share them with, and family members and friends, whether it's your will or your driver's license or your trust. You can choose people to share that with. And when you send them that information, they have to create an account, and you would have to give them access to that. So it's private information, and it's a pretty cool thing. If you're interested in learning more, I'll look for it for you if you request for it. But that's just to show you how important that is. If Fidelity can have that in the website, so you can actually sign up for it as part of your estate planning, is something that is major that you should definitely consider. It's not just like, it's not a walk in the park, because if something happens to you, you need to make sure, like, okay, you have children. Oh, you don't have kids. Okay, you have your mom, you have your dad, or you have your brothers, your sister. You have people that probably care for you and depending on you. So it's up to you to actually make sure things like that are in place. And one thing I'm gonna mention as well is a living trust. Not living trust, but a living power of attorney. A living power of attorney would give people access if you're not able to make decision for yourself. Maybe you're in a coma, you're in a hospital, but you're still alive, where your will and testament is not active yet because you're still alive. But who's gonna be making medical decision for you if you're not able to make it for yourself? All these stuff are very, very important to put in place as part of your financial planning. Because the moment you don't have that, it's just like you're just preparing for chaos for people you love, for your family. It's a whole thing, man. It's a whole thing.
It is. It is chaos. Like flexing money online and doing all of this stuff, showing that you got this and that. Like, this is the stuff you should be really flexing about. Show people that you got this in order. Show them that you got things covered. The worst thing is leaving a headache behind when you do transition away from this world. Like, that's not handling business. It's putting people behind you in a tough situation. It's selfish almost. It is selfish. It's not almost. It is selfish. It's selfish because you refuse to plan forward because, I don't want to think about that. Not thinking about it doesn't solve it. Plan it, solve it, get it done, boom. When it happens, it happens. Like, at least you know that you did your part. So now the next person behind you isn't trying to pick up for what you didn't do. You didn't handle your business here. Now the next person got to handle it for you.
That's it, because you didn't take care of it.
Yeah, and some people get mad. I don't want to leave this for anybody and all of that. But it's not about, even if you don't want to leave certain things, then make sure this stuff is in order. And we got a question. It said, can you guys explain what a trust is for the listening audience?
Yeah, absolutely. So a trust is a legal document. You can say a legal relationship in which the holder has a right to give to another person or entity. So, which means through your trust, it's literally a legal document you prepare. You can actually meet with an attorney or you can meet with a financial professional. So, when they write this trust for you, they make it legal. So, whatever you need with your financial assets, then you put it in that trust and that legal document.
Hmm.
From there, you're going to need a grantor. The grantor is the person that you're going to put in charge to carry stuff. And a lot of people think, no, you need to be wealthy to have a trust. You need to be a millionaire. No, regular individual like you and I, we can have a trust. So if you need more information on trust, go to theagentandbroker.com and request information. We sit one-on-one with you and make sure you understand what this legal document is all about. But really it's to manage your assets after you're gone. For example, what can
Hmm.
be in a trust? You can have a trust to pay for your kids college. Say you pass away and you have money in that trust account. So in that trust account you can put, for example, the only way my daughter have access to my millions when she turned 19 years old and she's actually attending college,
Yeah.
and she can take from that money and pay for college. So
Hmm.
even though you're gone, you still in control of the finances.
Right.
So that's just an example of what you can put in a trust. But a trust regulate anything and everything: your business, your family, anything, your real estate, your cars, everything you own can be in a trust, and you regulate it after you're gone to know, like everybody know how these things should be distributed, in a how you want it, pretty much. I
Mm.
hope that's a good explanation enough.
Oh yeah. I thought it was good. Excellent. Honestly, I know like something to add on. Another good example is people watch Power. So if you watch Power, um, what was it, Power 2 or the Book of Ghosts or something like that? Ghost had a trust when he died, and when he died, Tariq and his mom, everybody was excited to because they know that he left money behind.
Mhm.
However, they didn't know that Ghost had a trust in place, meaning that he controlled all of his money, where it was going to go, what you had to do with Tariq. So Tariq had to go to college, do A, B, C, D before he can even get to this money. And
Yep.
Ghost knew everything that he was going to do, and he put it in the trust. And that's literally planning ahead or controlling stuff while you're in the grave. And that's what trusts do. Another example is the big bankers that we see, the Rockefellers. The Rockefellers have created and operated a family trust for over hundreds of years. What they do is they create a trust every time a new generation is born, and every time one passes away, they put a life insurance policy in that trust. A portion of that life insurance policy goes into another IRA, into another account, gaining compound interest right as soon as the next Rothschild or the Rockefeller is born. Once they're born, that IRA has started. Once one dies, that IRA starts for the next generation. And it keeps compounding over and over. So everybody gets a life insurance policy, everybody gets a retirement account. So by the time you're looking at probably millions of dollars inside of that policy, because they're not going to have a cheap policy. You're going to have $1 million policy, multi-million dollar policy. Half of that is going into an IRA on a baby. So thinking about a baby getting compound interest on millions of dollars for 40 years, 60 years. By the time they retire when they're 65, well over probably 40 million, $50 million in that account. And they just keep duplicating that same thing over for generations and generations through a trust.
Hmm.
All of that is through a trust, and that's family banking. That's financial planning, and you can literally do the same thing, like James said. These are ways you can avoid, running into financial hardships and struggling. We don't have to struggle anymore. We got the game. Now it's just about applying the game and putting it in motion, in action.
100%.
Yeah, literally.
100%. I hope that was a good explanation for the trust, because that was some perfect example you give there, because it's something our community not really using enough. And definitely I hope listening to this or watching this, you really look into getting yourself a trust or power of attorney, will and testament. All these stuff should be a great way to take care of your estate planning and be part of your financial planning for yourself and your family.
For
You know,
sure.
so you're there.
Absolutely. These things are key. Like, and then, like, condolences to, that all of those people who lost their lives in Buffalo. Things like that, crazy stuff like that. Are we prepared for things to happen like that? Just tragic situations. Like, God comes in, shoots people, and randomly shoots people. Are you ready? Are you prepared for those situations? Like, those people didn't wake up that morning and think that they would go out like that. Like, nobody thinks about that. I mean, I try to go out prepared all the time. Like, we do that over here. Like, but not everybody lives like that. Most people aren't really proactive in their thinking, and they're more on a reactive type of thing, and they're laid back, they're chilling, just going with the flow of life. But going with the flow of life can really get you killed out here. Can really get you killed. Just not being on your, not being on your P's and Q's, man. And it's so sad that it makes me angry that somebody would go and do that. You know what I'm saying? That's a cowardly thing to do. But who knows? I don't know. It's a lot, man. And those families now have to, mourn and grieve from their loved ones who were killed by somebody and by the hands of a gun. And it's like they can't even get their family members back.
Bro,
did you see that whole thing?
No, I heard about it. I didn't see the whole story.
Oh,
but
man.
It's just heartbreaking.
I saw
bro.
the video, bro, and it was just
really
like, bro, like he live streamed this whole thing. It looked like a video game for real. Like, I just couldn't believe that, people, really that crazy in the mind to do things like that. Like, have that much hatred to just go and, kill people right away. And,
that's crazy, man. That's
hopefully
crazy.
Those families are prepared for those situations.
Hopefully, because like we said earlier, you never know what can happen.
No, you never know. You never
just
know.
Get out. You don't know what kind of crazy mess you're gonna get involved in. What kind of crazy mess, your loved one gonna get involved in. Unfortunately, but a story like this is just really heartbreaking. It's nuts. It's nuts, man. We have Jay put something in the screen here. Says there was a question posted by a black friend to a white friend. He said, "What is the one thing that would stop police from killing blacks?" His answer was, he stalled for a moment, then answered, "If black were to invest in life insurance." He guaranteed that police would stop. And that's actually a very, very interesting concept. And we actually elaborate on that a couple of years ago. You just kind of put that in perspective, and especially us as blacks, automatically we are at fault for whatever reason. That's reality. Imagine every time they shoot a black guy, like especially police, really they just pull the trigger like we animals. So imagine every time that happened, the family receive $1 million, $2 million, $5 million of life insurance. You know what would happen? Exactly what that says on the screen. Because it would get too expensive for the administration. It would get too expensive for the life insurance companies.
Now they got to go to court. Now they got to go. They got to go solve the problem. Like, what's the problem? Okay, they got to go address the police now. Now they're gonna go and fight the police. But y'all don't understand. It's so deep. The insurance is so deep. The insurance pretty much funds the police unions, man. Like, we go into that deep into everything. So like, if you did have an insurance policy on everybody, you know what I'm saying? Like, the insurance companies will definitely have to fight for you.
100%.
They'll have to. So it's like, okay, why are our clients? They're gonna go to the problem, and but that also creates opportunities for them to have to adjust underwriting guidelines. Okay, where do you live now? Okay, what
That's
zip
true.
code are you living in? Like, do you have any gang related activities or anything like that? Are you affiliated with so and so? A lot of insurance carriers ask, has anybody in your family died? Has a brother died? Has a sister died? Has your mother? Has your father? How are they health? How is their health? Like, these are the things that the questions that the companies are asking. But like, I love that theory, and that every black person should have life insurance for sure. Yeah, definitely. But it's a very, I think it's a very gray area
Mm-hmm.
because not every black person can get life insurance, if you know what I mean. Not
Mm-hmm.
every black person qualifies for life insurance because what, health, financial, is it's something that not everybody may qualify for. And then until you're probably like 40 or older, now you can get the burial insurance. And that's one thing I did want to touch on too before we wrap up tonight, was burial insurance. So burial and funeral coverage, those are policies to have when you're older. That's another way you can solve for issues like this, because most burial companies or companies pay out their burial and funeral insurance claims in probably a week or less. So
Mm-hmm.
two to maybe 5 days, it averages out where they will pay those policies out. So if you do have final expense, your parent, if your parent doesn't have final expense, if you're listening to this today and your parent doesn't have any type of burial coverage and they're over 40 years old, please go to www.theagentandbroker.com, fill out our form, and we would be glad to help you out with any of those policies. Or reach out to your local life insurance agent. Somebody, just ask them for a type of coverage for my parent. You don't want to get caught slipping, and
Mm-hmm.
you don't want to be that person with the GoFundMe on their page, asking for this. Like, I know everybody doesn't have it, and things unfortunately happen. However, people aren't obligated to help you in those times, because some people may look at you like, "Hey, why weren't you responsible enough to save your own money? Why should I have to help you in these times?" You know what I'm saying? Some people
Mm-hmm.
really think like that, and it sucks, but that's just how some people are. Nobody is obligated to help you, and I don't know where people. I do know why a lot of people have that sense of entitlement, like, in times of need. I get it, because when you're helpless and you feel, when you're at when you've been so hopeless and helpless for so long, you become angry, and then you build a sense of entitlement that you deserve this or you deserve that because you haven't had this or you haven't had that for so long. So now you think that you automatically deserve this, but people
Mm-hmm.
aren't obligated to give you anything. People aren't obligated to donate towards your GoFundMe or towards a family member if something happens to them. Nobody's obligated to do anything for you. And that's how I live my life. Like,
And I think that's the best way to live it, because you don't depend on anybody. No, like you're right. Nobody owe you anything. And as you mentioned, GoFundMe, man. I'm part of one of the Facebook group I'm part of. I remember a few months ago, somebody posted something about life insurance and the importance of life insurance, and also, of course, a recruiting opportunity. And man, there was so many comments underneath that post, and people saying like different things, man, like senseless, like people just saying like about life insurance. I don't remember all the comment, but it wasn't anything that was great.
mhm, yeah,
And what are we? Today is Monday. I believe on Wednesday or Thursday, there's a major accident happened, and the people in that area in the group, and a
mhm,
young lady passed away. And they showed a picture of the accident. Young lady passed away, and the very afternoon there was a GoFundMe account
of course.
from the family. and then you kind of look at it. It's like life, and I said that so many times. Life is designed for you not to care for yourself or about yourself. Life is designed for you to care about what's outside of you that's worth less than you, but yet you give it more value. For example, a car, maybe your job, you overwork and then your health is deteriorating. It could be a house. I mean, whatever.
Is that low self-esteem?
Could be viewed as that.
That stems from some type of issue inside, that you're valuing more things outside than inside.
Could be because it all has to do with the individual's environment. Most of it has to do with the environment, how they was raised, and what is the perspective of life. But when you start thinking certain way, you're like, man, I care for everything else but me. I was doing a training the other day, and I said, some people, they afraid of being alone. They afraid of being by themselves.
Yeah.
Like some people cannot stay by themselves. It's crazy.
Yeah.
They have to always. It's nuts. But
always
anyway,
do something or be around somebody.
Huh?
They always have to do something or be around somebody.
Be around somebody.
Yeah.
It never makes sense to me. It never makes sense to me.
A lot of people will have, like, they can't control their thoughts, so it scares them to be alone.
Yep.
And it's just like, or they don't feel validation from themselves, or they don't get it somewhere, so they look outside for it all the time. I'm a complete loner, bro. Like I can literally be by myself. Like when I lived in Seattle, I would go out literally by myself. I don't care. I go and make new friends. Like it is what it is. Like being by myself is that's where I learn who I am the most. That's where I learn the most about myself. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like I think there's value in being by yourself. And you become very strong mentally.
Yep.
Because now you feel you don't put anybody in a position to feel like, oh, you need them, or them to make them even think that you need them.
That's true.
But, it is okay to rely on people sometimes. So I'm not saying to be this big independent person all the time. No, be able to hold your own, but it also does take teamwork to make the dream work in anything. So just be willing or be able to hold your own and to stand on your own, so the next person doesn't have to carry you and the team.
That's absolutely correct. Absolutely correct, man. You want to read this, Julian?
It says most people in the Black community tend to look towards the church for financial help when a family member is killed. Realistically, if you're not a member of that church, most churches won't help due to the church's benevolence only covers members. I mean, it is what it is. You can't. I look at that as like an organization. And if you're not paying your dues in that organization, you can't expect that organization to help, even though it should, because that's what it was literally there for, was to help help the community. But in this day and age and where we're at, you can't even expect them to help like that. Like,
that's true.
That's just reality of the situation. Like that's because things have become more religious than they should, than anything. It's more of a religion, and now you operating on a religion. Now it's cultish, and if you're not rocking with us, then we not rocking with you. You know what I mean? Like. If I don't know you, you're not in our circle, then we're not obligated to help you. But that defeats the purpose of the true church and what a church is supposed to do.
I agree.
Or organizations like that. Same with fraternities, sororities. That's what those organizations are supposed to do, to reach back into the community and help certain things, because that's what they did back in the day. When they first originated, when life insurance, Black people created their own insurance companies, they were formed by fraternities and sororities and churches. These people came together, the entrepreneurs in the community came together to fund burial plans for people, to bury people, or to do funeral services for people. This is what we did back in the day. So having a church, not able to help because you don't attend that church. I mean, it's just like, dang, how religious can you get?
That's straight up.
For real.
Yeah. If that's the reason you don't help out, I mean that'll be ridiculous, But that's just to piggyback on what you said, a moment ago. You don't expect people to take care of you. People don't owe you anything. Organization don't owe you anything. Everything is subjective. Because if imagine you don't put your life in place, and somebody have to come out and help you. Well, this person have a family, she's married, she
Right.
has kids, she has
Right.
responsibility, she's taking care of her mother, she's taking care of her father. Now, just because you decide not to take care of yourself, she have to give in all that to help you, so is the whole mindset of you shouldn't 100% always depend on people.
Right.
Because if you don't take care of yourself, or if yourself is not valuable enough for you to take care of it, why would somebody put more value on you than you can on yourself? If that make any sense. It's a hard pill to swallow, especially with all that mindset of entitlement that's going on out there, especially with the young people as well. Not to target you, it's not just young people. I've seen some older individuals
folks too.
that's
Just
like,
everybody.
I'm like, man, what's going on here? Like,
That's where the young folks we learn it from. The older
bro.
folks. Yeah, entitlement is just, like I said, it comes from that helplessness and hopelessness. People who are both of those are super entitled because you're so used to getting the bottom of being at the bottom of the barrel and the short end of the stick. So now you just at a bitter moment in your life. But another thing I wanted to talk about before we wrap up is when it comes to the planning process is if you have children and you're not in a marriage and you're, say you have a baby mother or a baby father, make sure that y'all are on the same page if one of you guys pass away or anything like that. And, that your child, or even if your child passes away and, and you have a family over here and then your baby mom has a family over here and the baby daddy has a family over here. If he's married to another woman and you're married to another dude and y'all have a child together, but your child passes away, what are you doing to plan in between those things? Those are things that people don't really think about. But, like if y'all aren't really on terms or anything like that, y'all still have a child together. So when it comes to if something does, God forbid something happens to your child, and I don't wish that on anybody, but this is what happens. Like this happened. I've seen this happen. Like where both families don't even agree when it comes to certain things. One wants this and one wants that, but maybe one doesn't put up any money. Are you going to go half? Are you going to split the funeral costs? Would you split everything? These are conversations that need to be had. Like we need to talk about death, and even though it is an emotional subject, we need to talk about it because the more we talk about it, the better we would feel when it does happen. You will be prepared, and when you plan these things out, you feel a little bit better in those moments than not being prepared in all of these moments. So if you do have a child and y'all are separated, make sure that you do prepare those things out for your child, for yourself as well. Like if something does happen to you, make sure that you're good and your child is good, and possibly your child's mother or your child's father. Like at the end of the day, that's who your child will be staying with if something happens to you in the midst of that. So these are things that people do need to hash out. I know you don't want to think of, no parent really wants to ever think about burying their own child, but that happens. You're experiencing it right now, James.
Yep.
I experienced it the other week. It's a reality for a lot of people. And if you and that child's father or mother aren't on the same page and y'all aren't on the same terms, it's just going to cause more conflict during these times. That's all it does. It causes more conflict, more headaches, more problems. And these are discussions that you should have. It's uncomfortable, but just have it or plan it out. Literally. Or like James said, get a trust, get a will in place. Now, if you have those things in place, make sure that you plan these things out for your child. Nobody's off limits to this death thing.
Nobody.
Nobody's
And
off limits.
you know what? I'm gonna put him on some game right here, Julian, just to continue on what you said. For anyone out there, whether you're receiving child support from a man or a man receiving child support from a woman, and your life insurance policy, if you were married, this is for my married couple who got a divorce, you need to make sure your policy has you as an irrevocable beneficiary in a policy. Now, let me explain why you need this. Say you're receiving child support from a spouse and baby is 4 years old. Spouse was making $100,000 for the year. Spouse passed away. No life insurance. Where is your money going to come from to actually make sure you maintain the lifestyle that you have? Or let's just say he had a life insurance and he actually got married. Well, in some states, that actually would default to the new wife if you was not an irrevocable beneficiary in that policy. So that meaning make sure your spouse or your ex-spouse have you as an irrevocable beneficiary in a life insurance policy.
Irrevocable.
So which means if he or she was to get married again or remarried, you would still be the primary beneficiary in that policy. So you want more information, theagentandbroker.com, and we can go ahead and give you some more detail. But I thought I'll just add that in there for them, man.
That was major. That was a good clip for social media there, man.
There you go.
That was dang. I've read a story like that, and somebody who, passed away but got remarried, and the child's mother was looking to claim the policy, but it went to the new spouse.
Yep.
So there was a lot of conflict when it came to that, and also go and check your bank accounts. You guys change bank accounts over time. Make sure your policy is still enforced. If it's not, if you change your bank account, make sure you get that. Go back and switch your insurance over. It should be as important as your bank. Like anytime you switch your bank, your life insurance should be the next step. It's actually more important than the bank, but if it's a term policy, it is what it is. But make sure that you are on cue with all of those things, man. Be on point. You know what 100%. I'm saying? Like, and we're gonna do our best to get on point. We're gonna be eventually we can, teach these things in the community. So we're gonna wrap up tonight and everything. So we do have, like I mentioned earlier, internship coming up. So the month of June, we'll be offering an internship with the agent and broker. So 11th and 12th grade high school students in Orange County, Florida. So all Orange County students are welcome to apply. I have the link on theagentandbroker.com. Also, if you want to DM me or anything, I can send you the link as well. The link is already on our Instagram, ready for kids to apply. And, go in there, they submit everything they want and see what they want to do. They got the options to, whether help us out, whether it's on social media, video editing, graphic design, anything when it comes to technology in this field of tech. And marketing on social media marketing, or account management or administrative assistant, helping us out and helping us grow the podcast. We want to have the high schoolers help us grow the podcast. You'll be able to get $15 an hour. You can work as many hours as you want, up to 40 hours every week. And if you want to save that money for college, or you want to save some money to get your first car, it's a great opportunity to work with us. You'll help us grow, but we'll also, write those good recommendations. And also after that, we'll be looking, to eventually bring somebody on. One day we want to bring somebody on and, you know, there's a lot of big things coming up. So I'm excited about it.
Yeah, man, that's exciting news. I wish when I was in high school I had this opportunity. You know, the only opportunity I had was to work in culinary or work in the theme parks, you know,
Hey.
McDonald's, you know, but you have an opportunity like that, man, at 11 and 12 graders. So it's a great opportunity to actually come to this platform and sharpen your skills and get ready for the real world.
Facts.
So I'm very excited for this. And if you're watching this and anyone that's in high school, 11 and 12 graders, that this may fit, this career opportunity that's $15 an hour, with all the description Julian just said, just reach out to us and have them reach out to us so we can provide them with this opportunity. So
Yep.
yeah, man, it's such a beautiful thing, such a beautiful thing. We did not see this coming when we first started this podcast.
No, not at all.
But
we
that
pivot
means
every time, man.
every time we're just
Every time.
pivoting and we just making things
pivot
happen.
and go like, okay, yeah, this makes sense. Let's do it. So I'm excited about that. I think that's it, man. Like,
that's it. Yeah.
Wrap up for the night, guys. It's over 10, so 10:03, a little bit over time. So thank you for tuning in to all of our listeners, subscribers, followers, everybody who has downloaded. We're almost at 200 downloads, so that's major. We're at 20 episodes, so we're moving, man. Like, we're moving, and the consistency, and people are liking it. All we need is, to start building, getting a bigger team to build and help us push this more and more on the online, helping us grow this online, because the content is dope. Like, people need to hear this stuff. So
yep,
I'm excited, man.
Very excited. Very excited. So once again, thank you to all the viewers, listeners.
Yes, sir.
We just want to take this to the moon and bring you all the content and make sure this stay interesting and our community get comfortable to talk about life insurance.
Absolutely.
Life insurance is major. So anyway, man, I enjoyed the 20th episode.
Yes,
I'm
sir.
excited for the future.
Yep. Hopefully y'all learned something. And y'all go back and think about it. Do you have $10,000 to $15,000 if something happened to you tomorrow? Do you or your family? Think about it.
That's it.
We're gonna leave y'all with that. Have a good one. I'm Julian the Agent, James the Broker, Agent and Broker Podcast. Y'all have a good night.
The agent and the broker put you on the right path. And if it ain't adding up, then do the right math. And when you wanna come up, some might laugh. But them be the types to be the overnight staff. Always be a worker, we tryna be some owners. Sometimes might strike out, sometimes we hitting homers. But one thing's for sure, when the money gets uncovered, hit the agent and the broker. Say thank you to my brothers.